Is Penn State going to be the first round blowout game in the college football playoff? That's Zach Seyko, locked on Nittany Lions here, joining me to discuss. Here's where I get that sentiment from, Zach. You're not going to have easy conditions to throw the football. And I've seen Penn State throw the ball. Tyler Warren's really good. The running backs got involved against Oregon. They went up and down the field. But they ran for 290 yards in that game against an Oregon defense that's really good. Against a front four that's really good. SMU has not run for 200 yards in over a month. The only legitimate opponent they've really done it against this year was Duke. And I just look at this game and say, boy, you might need a run game to move the football if you can't throw it. That doesn't cater to what SMU does. I liked the way Penn State played in the Big Ten championship game. I think the Nittany Lions win this game big.
Yeah, you should be somewhat of a Penn State expert at this point since you saw them play, or since you saw Oregon and Penn State play in the Big Ten championship in person. I mean, look, I can't say that I was overly surprised, but it somewhat caught me off guard that Penn State was going to have that kind of success against Oregon. You and I talked about it, how the battle at the line of scrimmage was going to play out, and it doesn't get any easier with SMU. SMU has a top 3 run defense, but the difference is the fact that, okay, the offense forces teams to play to their style. And Penn State is a team that can win in a bunch of different ways. They can go fast, they can go slow, they can sustain the 12, 15 play drives that are going to be necessary in this game. You have to put ice on, literally and figuratively, on the SMU game plan, because when that offense gets going, they're going to be humming, they're going to be in a rhythm. That's when they're tough to stop, because then in a blink of an eye, oh, wow, they scored. But SMU's biggest enemy is SMU. They turn the football over a little too much. They can make mistakes when Kevin Jennings, particularly as a first-year starter, gets flustered. And if the offense isn't able to get into rhythm, and Penn State will do what it is necessary in addition to the elements. SMU is playing in a game where the temperatures are going to have a real feel of 15 degrees, Spencer. It was 70 just a couple of days ago in Dallas, Texas. I don't know how you prepare for that unless you fly over to Pennsylvania and practice outside in the elements like Penn State can do this entire season. So you're also going to have 100,000 plus fans yelling against you, right? So it's the combination of crowd noise, wind, the actual weather. We're going to get maybe some snow showers up here in central PA, but don't forget about the snow. Talk about the wind. Talk about the absolute cold, because the first time Kevin Jennings gets laid out by Abdul Carter, that's going to sting for probably a few more drives.
Yeah, I think that's another reason. I mean, Penn State having an outright home game here is another reason I'm confident in the Nittany Lions. And look, let's be honest about it. This is not Ohio State. This is not Peak Michigan. This is not Oregon. Yeah. These are the games that Penn State wins. And this year, since the early portion when they struggled with Bowling Green inexplicably, they've rolled everybody except Minnesota. But that was on the road. This is at home. I struggle seeing SMU. I think they can hang around in the game. I don't think Penn State goes up 21-3 and then the game is just never tight. But I look at that 8.5 number according to our friends at FanDuel, Zach. I think Penn State covers that. And yes, SMU's run defense has been really good. But I am 100%. You can put me down. You can roast me in the comments. Do whatever you would like in the camp of SMU has not beaten a team as good as Penn State this year. It doesn't mean I don't think SMU should be in the playoff. I think they should. I said that at the time. I wanted them in at 11-2 over a 9-3 Alabama or a 9-3 Ole Miss. This is just not a great matchup for them. Heck, I might even like Texas. I think I would like Texas far more as a matchup for SMU than Penn State in this spot. But Penn State's a really good football team, and I think the level of talent in the trenches going both ways with the way that offensive line played against Oregon, if they do that again, you've got Andy Kotelnicki, who's going to have had 2 weeks to prepare. Now, Rhett Lashley and the SMU offensive staff, they've been really good this year as well. But they've got to travel, and that's just more time for Kotelnicki and company to be comfortable at home, get ready. I think that offense is going to be ready to go. I think they're going to be able to run the football more than anyone has on SMU this year. And I think the number of areas that worry me for SMU in this game are far more than the ones that excite me for the Mustangs.
Well, and I'm glad you pointed out the fact that, okay, SMU hasn't beaten anybody that's the caliber of Penn State. SMU hasn't even played anybody. They haven't even lost to anybody that's the caliber of Penn State. Penn State,
I think Clemson is close.
I mean, Clemson's in the playoff, don't get me wrong, but remember, they had 3 losses. The only reason they
Correct.
were in here is because of a few tiebreakers. They got into the ACC
12-team playoff. Sorry, coughed.
I mean, I can't wait for the 16 or even the 24-team playoff, but that's a different
64-team field, baby.
Why
Bring
not?
it on. 5-game regular season. Let's go. Let's go.
I mean, we could have a podcast on that in itself, but Penn State, they played Ohio State close. They played Oregon close. Those were 2 one-score games, and the teams that SMU ultimately lost to BYU early in the season, so maybe I'm not going to hold them to it as much, but everyone wants to talk about Penn State's weak level of competition within the Big Ten. Let's not neglect the fact that somehow SMU beat Duke by 1 point when they committed 6 turnovers, and I watched that entire game to figure out how did Manny Diaz do it, because he was the former defensive coordinator at Penn State, so that had a lot of my intrigue, and SMU should have had more. The fact that they didn't turn the ball over 8 times, 9 times is beyond me. So now you factor in weather, noise, travel, and a Penn State team that's just the best talented team that you're going to face. I think the key here is, you mentioned Andy Kotelnicki. It's Tom Allen. Kevin Jennings is a one-read quarterback. And even if it was Preston Stone, this is a one-read offense. Tom Allen's going to be able to scheme that up so easily, take away Kevin Jennings' first 2 reads, and this offense goes nowhere.
Can we talk about this game being dubbed the Battle of Backup-less quarterback teams?
Because Stone's still is still on the roster. Bo Pribula entered the portal, but
I thought Stone was in the portal.
He's in the portal, but he's on the team.
Okay.
It's just Penn State.
All right. Well, point stands that both backups of this team. I mean, that's an advantage SMU. If someone gets dinged up in the cold weather, the quarterback position.
Don't talk about it. Don't mention it too loud.
Yeah. Penn State just has to hope that it doesn't get to that particular spot. Let's wrap here with our score prediction, Zach. I think Penn State wins. I don't know how many points get scored in this game, because that 45-37 shootout in the Big Ten title game was at Lucas Oil Stadium. That's an indoor environment. Even though Penn State is comfortable in the cold, they've played there many times before, of course. I still think you see somewhat more of a slugfest. I don't expect it to be 31-24 at the half. I remember seeing that score, Zach, and texting you at the game going, what's going on here? What are we doing? Like, how did this happen? I don't think that happens here. I think Penn State wins. I think Penn State covers. I'll go 31-20. And I think that they build an early lead of 7 to 10 points, and they just kind of keep SMU at an arm's length throughout the game.
Yeah, I feel like that's where it's going to be. I think Penn State wins 35-21. SMU, because of that tempo, because of that pace, will never truly be out of it, as we saw against Clemson. But that's the difference in North Carolina, in Charlotte, versus 15-degree weather. It's James Franklin and Penn State. Penn State, it's still, I would argue that they have more experience. They're just better suited for this environment. Kevin Jennings is a first-year starter in this kind of road environment in the middle of December. Just does not set up nicely. And like I said, they can hit the home run, but they're gonna strike out a lot when the deck is stacked against them. So I think SMU will definitely continue to push the pace and try to be involved, but they just won't be able to finish. They won't be able to convert. That's going to be the difference. They might get close, but they're not going to be able to score that touchdown where they got back within against Clemson.